mean, we'll go into that where I think a lot of people have a true, honest fear of commitment in their lives generally, and therefore they don't want to commit to anything. Like just like if you tell them, hey, they'll give you excuses. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Family Man Building a Brand podcast. I am your host, Cecil Williams.
And I'm Raphael Saye.
So today's episode is going to be one of those, man. We're going to talk about mindset. And as like Ralph and I started this podcast, one of the reasons we started this podcast was to be able to help entrepreneurs, dadpreneurs, mompreneurs, people who are starting families, who have established families, who are thinking or in some stage within the entrepreneurial life cycle, and they need to figure out certain things. And I think with business owners, entrepreneurs, or anybody looking to do anything in their life, the greatest thing we have to take care of or nurture is our minds. With a great mindset, we're able to get to where we need to get to. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about mindset and what it takes to get you to that over the hump or get you to the next level at every stage of your business or within your family circles and stuff like that. So,
right. And you know what, Seth, like it's really key that we tackle both sides of the spectrum. Mindset from an entrepreneurial perspective and mindset from a family perspective, because those two mindsets on both ends of the spectrum is what gets you to that result. Since we both know how difficult it is to have that entrepreneurial mindset and you're a go-getter and you're going, you got that grind, you got that motivation, you got that grit in you. But you know that even when you do hit that result, entrepreneur-wise, you hit that goal as a hard worker, it's still not as fulfilling, and you still run through issues from a personal perspective. You can't. Matter of fact, says, I know I've gone through this. The harder I went on business, the more flack I caught because of the lack of imbalance, which again had to be taught within and ingrained within my mindset to find that balance and not go so hard on biz and neglect the family. Not go so hard on family and neglect the business, man. So I think
I always tell people the truth is, for me, and this is how I've approached things, there is no balance between the two. But over time, if you kind of, I like to approach things with a long-term approach and saying over time you create balance. But in the short spurts that you are living in the moment, one thing has to take precedence over the other so you get to a goal. But over time, it's like a oscillator. It's like stock market. Like over time, they'll say you will make money, but today, this week, you might lose a lot of money. So over time, I kind of like to think of it like, okay, maybe this season, maybe this quarter, business is where it's at because I need to get certain foundations together next month. Okay, I might have to focus on family a little bit to get that balance, but it's not necessarily equal. It might only be for a month. It might be for 2 months, but that could be enough for what you need to get you back to where you need to be in business and stuff like that. But I mean, you're right. So I just think like mindset and also just mindset to get to overcome things, because I think a lot of people don't start in their entrepreneurial journey because they have there's a certain mindset you have to be able to overcome. I mean, I was reading something or watching something recently where this guy said mindset is one of the most undervalued pieces to the puzzle. And there's a lot of us talk about it, but we don't even understand how important it is. I mean, even if you take religion, I mean, to believe in something, it takes the mind. It takes convincing the mind to believe in something. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to succeed in entrepreneurship, your mind has to embrace it. And in order for your mind to embrace it, it has to shift. It has to shift from its current beliefs. And for that to happen, for me personally, I think I had to get a coach. I had to get a mentor. It wasn't going to happen just by myself. I mean, because I had certain limiting beliefs to certain things that my circle, and it's nothing against my immediate circle, they didn't want what I wanted. So they couldn't help me shift my mind. But I mean, for us as entrepreneurs, you and I, Ralph, we've always had to, most recently, you have to understand the need for like a coach or a mentor who's already walked that path and gone in that direction to say, this is what you need to do. But I'm also going to, because I think there's the mindset a coach and a mentor can give you. But at the end of the day, I still think they're just a guide. But there's you developing your mind enough to say, yo, I'm about to go full shark mode and I got this. Like, I now believe why I need to do this. I now see a path of how I'm going to do this. So,
And
but
and,
yeah, I
and
mean,
you are
that's
right,
me.
man. In the very beginning, I think it's mandatory and it's inevitable. That's the term I'm looking for. It's inevitable that you will be out of balance in this
Mhm.
initial phase. It says there's two phases. There's that family man that's aiming to transition to building a brand,
Yeah.
and there's that man that has a brand that is transitioning and now building a family. In those two immediate phases, says you will
Yeah.
be out of balance from the very beginning, man. Why? Because says I remember
Most
my
deaf.
mindset, bro. When I found out that my first son was on the way, I was out of balance. It was all grind. Get your results, stack up cash, prepare yourself. You have a child on the way and all that stuff. Forget the date nights, forget the Sundays chilling in, forget all of that stuff. Right now, it's all about stack the bank account because you're unsure of what's ahead. Same thing from an
Yeah.
entrepreneurial perspective.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, uncertainty. You're unsure of what's ahead. You don't know what's going on. You're all over the place and things of that sort. So you're out of balance. And sometimes as well too, it's kind of cliche within, the entrepreneurial culture to lose balance from a family perspective where you dump the business and you're all out of balance, but you're focused so much on family. And I don't think it should be that way, but that way does occur most. It's easier to get out of balance and let that family do their thing because this business is just so critical that I must put all my
But I mean,
focus on that.
it's
You know,
that's where like sacrifices come
correct.
in and conversations have to be had because I mean, this is not like you got a new job and yeah, you can tell you I got a new job, I got to impress my boss. I mean, this is like your
Right.
future. This is your everything. So ultimately, that conversation has to be had with your significant other. I mean,
Great.
depending on how old your kids are, they have to
Yep.
understand when it's time for work, when it's time because you have to explain to them. I mean, and it's not just your immediate family. Sometimes it could be your parents, sometimes it could be your siblings, and everybody understanding, like, yo, this is the journey I've embarked on. If you haven't heard from me, it's not because, but yeah, you still have to also find balance in making sure, yo, self-care. At the end of the day, self-care is part of the mindset play that I guess is all too forgotten or
Right.
ignored.
It is.
That
It
I mean,
definitely
I was
is.
reading something you say if you don't find time for self care, your body will find time for it, and when your body
Right. And it
finds
may not
time
be at
for
the
it, it
most ideal
reminds
time.
you. It might not be the most ideal time. It could be sickness. It could be you
Yep.
ending up in a hospital. It could be you
Yep.
having to force to be taking time off from something at the most
Yep.
critical time. So
Yep.
I think that comes into play. But yeah,
Yeah, I was there, man. I was there, especially in the very beginning of my franchise journey, Sess. I was already a family man. I was already been building my brand per se. We've already launched multiple businesses, things that sort. And as I was entering into that world, Sess, like I said in the very beginning of this, you're going to be out of balance, and the one aspect of life that takes the biggest hit is going to be family. Sad to say, but
mhm,
that's just where the entrepreneur's mindset goes. And I was so out of balance that not only did I neglect family, since I neglected myself. Self care definitely wasn't something on my schedule because for me, self care was a luxury. Self care was
yeah,
me enjoying a win because I had a great week. For me, self care, and I didn't felt like I deserved that. I just got into this
wow,
investment, I just got into this venture, and all my time needed to go towards stabilizing the ship ASAP versus taking a day off on a Sunday. I felt like, no, I'm going against the code. I should be working on this 24 hours a day. So you easily slip
wow,
into that, Sess. That the health issues, the headaches, the brain pain beyond a headache. These things are actually real. I actually faced this. It says I know
yeah.
you faced it multiple times in the past, but I think you did a better job at getting back into balance than I did. I was just so gung ho that it took me to learn the harsh lessons of, man, you know what? I have no choice but to shut down, go home and sleep for 2 days and lose whatever income from wherever else because my body said, no, enough is enough. Had I balanced it out, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
had to lose 2 days of production and things of that sort, man. So that's a real thing. Getting out of balance sets, especially in me going through that franchise journey in the very beginning of it, was me being all over the place. Sess, I had to put on the HR hat. I had to put on the operations hat. I had to put on the admin hat. I had to put on the management. I had to put on so many different hats that I was so all over the place that you're telling me take time off and go to the beach this weekend? No, HR needs to be paid to. Yeah, no, food orders need to be made. No, this needs to be produced. So,
I mean, I
that's
think
a part of mindset. And I had to
like
learn
you're
the hard
saying,
way and get my mind right.
being all over the place, I mean, it doesn't help. It's not productive. I mean, there's long-term consequences, but even on the short term, like I think some days I wake up with anxiety. This is an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm not, other people might wake up with that. I mean, because I'm not gonna lie, when I had a job, I never had to wake up with I mean, like a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I've never had to wake up with, the only anxiety I had to wake up with is waking up knowing that I had to go to my job. Like,
Correct.
but in terms of like what was ahead of me, I had a scope of business or my responsibilities, and you just go and repeat it or solve your problems every day. But in entrepreneurship, it's especially when you're starting out, you're responsible for everything, and you have to be all over the place. But with time, you have to learn not to be all over the place and figure out how to control and organize your time. But not even in that instance, I also think being all over the place, I think people want to do multiple things at the same time, and they want to be here, they want to be there, they want to, like, sometimes you need to just pull back, like, because you start getting in the thick of things and you want to be everything to your business, you want to be everything to everyone else. You can't be that. You have to be focused and saying, okay, what am I? You have to be disciplined. You have to be very disciplined. And it's easier said than done. But if you want to get to the next level, you have to find balance and discipline. I mean, it's like, even from a mindset perspective, when I say discipline being all over the place, you cannot, I mean, I was listening to, actually, what's his name? The real estate mogul guy, whatever. I'm blanking out on his name. Anyways, whatever. He said he had to be so disciplined with his lifestyle that you start up in the morning and you say you wake up at 6 o'clock and you make it a habit and you do it every single day. So it becomes a habit. And then you pick up the kids from school at a certain time, but they have to be in bed by 8 o'clock, because you can squeeze in 8 to 9 or 8 to 10, or so for some people even earlier. They say their kids got to be in bed by 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So from 6 to 8, you can spend time with your wife. And that's what he was saying, spend time with his wife. And then from 8 to 11, he can put in more time. And then he's in bed 12 o'clock, eyes got to be shut down. He's being up again at 6. Yes, he's not getting the 8 hours required sleep, but he has a set time and he's structured. I mean, structure is very boring, but success is slow and boring, but it's important. It's an integral part of what you do to get to where you need to get to.
Man, talking about him having a schedule and a system set. I was listening to a podcast. I forgot what podcast I was listening to. And Rob Deerdeck, Robin Big, and now he has the show Ridiculous.
Have you seen his schedule?
Dude. The dude has standard operating procedures for his life.
For his lifestyle.
Yes. His team must follow the SOPs for his life. And I'm talking about, he has not a minute off. Everyone wonders, how is this guy able to produce? I mean, I think he films like
so
6
many
episodes
shows.
Yes. Bro, he does so many different things, owns so many different businesses that are not, I guess, commercially branded. He films 5 to 6 ridiculously. So even the cast members on the show are like clockwork. The minute, shut it down. Next, next episode, play this. His life has SOPs that his team must follow. And that's key, man.
Crazy. Entrepreneurial success is needed because nobody else is going to push you.
Yep,
exactly. At your job, your boss alone is your, like, hey, if you don't do this, or maybe getting fired because you depend on it. But in your business, like, I mean, even your coach can push you, but at the end of the day, I can give you an assignment. If you come next week and you don't do it, they'll be like, oh, okay, you didn't do it. Fine. Okay, do it again. If you do it, like, after a while, they might even fire you and say, well, you're not doing what is required. So nobody's going to push you. So therefore, you have to put a level of discipline inside of you that's going to get you to that. Because I mean, that's the consequence between failure and success in what you're doing. that you
Right.
truly have to. I mean, Steve Harvey, like you see the same thing. This dude is shooting a TV. I mean, well, what the radio thing in the morning that's syndicated nationwide. He's shooting TV shows. He now has a TV show in South Africa and Ghana. Like, I mean, he's like, how do you do all this stuff? But at the end of the day, his team has to be very structured. His life has to be very structured. And at some point in time, he's doing all of this. I mean, he's achieved some freedom. I mean, but I always say people enjoy doing what they do. And when he stops and he says, I'm not going to do this anymore, he's built enough success in his life that he can continue. He can just sail out and just enjoy his life. But he's become a part of our everyday lives, especially for people in media personalities. But for other people who build tools or build products that we use every day that we don't even know who built them, they have to put that level of scheduling in their lives or discipline in their lives. And it all starts in the mind, because waking up every day at 5 o'clock is not fun. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Like Sunday, I mean, some people do it to the point where my wife's aunt was telling me she wakes up every day, I think at 5 in the morning, regardless of what day it is, Monday through Sunday. And I was like, well, don't you even get to sleeping on Sunday? It's like, well, if you make it a habit, you get used to it. And you can find time to relax at other times, but you've made the discipline in your life because you have a
Yep.
goal, a desired goal. And I'm just
Yep.
like, okay, well, I
I
mean,
agree, man. On my end, on my end, my kids' school schedule starts at 6 a.m. That starts with waking them up,
wow.
things that sort of.
Oh,
And Seth, don't get me wrong, man. My kids are not going to wake themselves up, even if I put 10 alarm clocks in there.
nah.
They're going to take advantage. It's on me. So now, Seth, I'm used to being up by 6 a.m. Not because I want to, but because I have to. And you know why it
Yeah.
worked out for me, man? When I went to Hawaii, where this is the first time where I went behind the Pacific
Because the
time
time,
zone
like
that I'm
5 hours
so it worked for me, Seth. I'm
or
used to
three.
waking up
Yeah.
6 a.m. Yeah, 3 hours. I'm used to waking up on Cali time, but now it's really 3 a.m. over there. So I'm getting to enjoy Hawaii from literally from dusk. I mean, from dawn all the way till dusk because my body is used to being up at that time. Now, second Seth, I
You're
know
used
you're
to
an
your
early riser
schedule.
as well too. Yeah, exactly. You're early rise as well too. You play the markets. You got to get your son ready for school and things of that sort. Says productivity is increased at this time. Waking up that early, I feel like those first 3 hours of the day, you maximize those 3 hours of the day as an entrepreneur, and you've covered more ground than you would in a great 8 hour 9 to 5 shift. When you first wake up
But
and you
when I
don't.
wake up early
Yep,
and I go to the gym, it sets the tone for my day, because
yep,
I think physically, mentally, my mind is exercised and it's ready
yep,
to go.
yep. I
Versus when
definitely
I even
agree.
start my day late. And like you said, as being with the family, I
Yeah,
have the responsibility of taking my son to school every day. So it's I can't even sleep in and make a mistake
yeah,
and not
correct.
take
Yeah.
him. I mean, he has to be there later, but I mean, I have a calendar that controls my life. And I mean,
Yep,
when my wife needs me to do something, I tell her, put it on my calendar and schedule it so
right.
I can be reminded. Because when the stock market opens, I get a reminder that it's about to open when it's opening 30 minutes before it closes, 15 minutes and at the time, because these are all benchmarks that I have to remember to do certain things that could really make a huge, I mean, a 15-second reminder could remind me that I had said I was looking at Apple today, wasn't going to buy all day, but maybe that last 15 minutes, depending on what the trend has done, I'm going to get in for a play. And that play could make a huge difference by the next day. But I have to look at these things, meetings. I mean, everything, these things that we set, they have to be on calendars of when we record, of when we review the work, when we actually put in the work. Like if it doesn't go on my calendar now, I don't remember. And about 3 years ago, I had no calendar. And then my mentor
I
said,
know.
you got to get a calendar. Like you
Oh yeah,
need to
definitely.
schedule your life. And I was like, man, I can, I don't. I mean, he helped me. He showed me what he did. And he said, just try it this way, time block and be good with doing these things. And as you go along, there are things you're not going to like to do. You're not going to like enforce, remove them. I mean, it's okay. Give yourself grace in doing those things, but you have to stick to a discipline of what you choose, what you've chosen to commit to, and not be all over the place. I mean, and that brings us to like this idea of like a fear of commitment. I mean, we'll go into that where I think a lot of people have a true, honest fear of commitment in their lives generally, and therefore they don't want to commit to anything. Like just Like if you tell them, hey, they'll give you excuses. Oh, I can't do this because of that. I can't do this because of that. I mean, whether it's in their relationships. I mean, you've been married for 10 years, and I've been married for 5, going 6. So we've been with our wives for much longer. That's a long-term commitment that we've had to make. And I think even that alone has taught us about commitment in so many other parts of our lives that it's like,
Right. That was the
boom,
point that
like,
I was going to bring up, man, because I was going to say fear of commitment, not only committing to the work lifestyle necessary to build this brand or to build this business, and the fear of commitment to a significant other that's going to keep you focused and keep you grounded while
yeah,
you take the
yep,
entrepreneurial journey. That fear of
yep,
commitment is critical at that point in the very beginning. I mean, Seth, we've broken down the framework of the entrepreneurial journey, and we know that
yeah,
mindset is where it goes first. Fear of commitment, you know, on a personal level, can possibly deter you off the rest of your journey versus fear of commitment on a business level, where it's
yep,
like, okay, I don't want to commit to this business, but at the same time, that's going to reflect over to your personal life. You
yeah.
don't commit to your personal life and wanting to have success within your family, that's going to rub off into your business life
I
as
mean,
well
they're
too,
one and the
and vice
same. They
versa.
all
They
become
are
one and the same. Yeah. I
definitely,
mean,
man.
it's crazy because I know a guy who he has this whole thing. It's like life by design. And he started building that life, I think he said when he was like 26, and now he's about 47. And he's built his life where he now has financial freedom, like complete financial freedom. And I always tell people this, that for me, from a very young age, being an immigrant coming to this country, first of all, in school, I knew my goal was to get a degree. It didn't matter whether it was for me to please my parents, it didn't matter. So that discipline of what it took to get there, I think carried on into other parts of my life where I like to think I live my life by design. And I try not to tell a lot of people about it because sometimes people look at you and they want to judge you. Not that I care, but my life by design about who I got married to, my life by design about my career choices, my life by design about, I mean, I don't control who my son, like I didn't say, well, God, I want a son, God, I want a daughter. That's not that. But in terms of like what I can almost control to a certain extent, because you can't control everything, like or whatever. But I got married to someone. It's shocking, but it's almost by design. And it doesn't mean I don't love my wife. It doesn't mean I don't care for my wife. But I think for us, we understood because we started dating at a very young age, the benefit of building together for a very long time and
Right.
what was at stake. So it didn't
Yeah.
matter who came into the picture.
Those
My mind said
fundamentals
to
are already
me,
set. Yep.
it ain't worth it. This is
Yeah.
the path I know I'm gonna go. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether I get stared away from it. I'm coming
Right.
back here because I understand what the big picture is. I mean, the
Right.
big picture for my family, first of all, because
Right.
I think you set the foundation there, and it gets to determine. Because there's some people who say I build a business because you see, I mean, and it's not knocking them. If that's what works for you, it works for them. They, like most people would say, oh, I want to build my business. I want to build my life, my career. And then once I have everything,
Yeah.
I can
Right.
put the puzzle in place where I now find a significant other who gives
Yeah.
me a kid. I'm like, that's fine if that works for
Right.
you. But
Right.
I mean, I could ask them, how's it going? For
Right.
me, clearly, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I kind of even always tell people, I'm like, college? I went to college with 40,000 students. I'm like,
Right.
what better place to learn about myself, about
Right.
business, about
Right.
family, about dating? I mean, 40,000 students would probably, let's say 55% of them women. Like,
Yep.
what better place to like meet different people
Right.
to get to understand them and that type of stuff? So, I mean,
Right.
people going back to the original concept, fear of commitment. If you're afraid to commit to the discipline of building a business, if you're afraid to commit to a significant other,
It's
how
gonna
are you
spill
going
over.
to? And I'm not, I mean, there are people who have built successful businesses who
Of
maybe don't
course.
have a significant other. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you
Of
have to
course. Yeah.
build one because if you
Right.
say, I don't want to do that, but I'm going to commit to my business, then fine. Because even from a dating perspective, that person is in the dating pool and you can commit to a girlfriend for a period of time and you get what you need to get out of it. I'm not judging or don't care what that is. That's up to the individual and you move on. If that's what
Right.
your commitment level is, then fine. That, which means maybe you make more energy to commit to your business to grow it. And that's okay.
Exactly.
But you can
I
be
just feel like
afraid.
exactly. You can't be afraid, man. I just feel like, again, Seth, you made a very great point where no, there are entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs out there that don't have to commit per se to a significant other. But if your circumstance calls for it, then there cannot be a fear of commitment there. So you do, again,
Yeah,
Cecil, you did have a significant other, you were in divorce. You already had that part of your journey already there as part of the foundation. Now you having a fear of commitment there could have potentially created an issue. That's how I feel. So
yeah,
whether that person didn't have it didn't have that personal perspective. I mean, there's people that are fear of commitment for business because they have a family and they have a 9 to 5, and that's where their commitment is. Their commitment is,
yeah.
I have a fear of committing to a business now because everything
To
is
a
set on
business,
this side.
yeah, to entrepreneur,
Exactly.
that makes sense
Right.
because if you
Right.
have a cushion in your 9 to 5, you have
Right.
a great job.
It's
Now
very
you
scary.
have a
Yep.
wife and two
Yep.
kids. That
Yep.
fear of commitment of saying I'm going to
Correct.
give all of this up to
Yes.
go start an
Correct.
entrepreneurial
Correct.
business, it's madness. It's like, yo, like people are looking at you, are you crazy? And then your mind is telling you what's wrong with you. But I think when you put when discipline and practice creates an environment where your not perfection, but your practice becomes repetitive to the point where it becomes second nature. So most people don't even realize that the discipline that they form, because I do think like college 9 to 5 and all these things, me, because that's what I know. They instill a certain level of discipline in you that you're carrying now on to your personal business. And now this is your business. This is your agenda. This is like this is everything you want. If as long as you carry on that discipline and practice that you've put in every other part of your life, and now you're going to learn the importance of the consequences of the actions you make. If you don't do this is what happens. If you don't show up here, this is what happens. Because now experience is going to be a teacher at your job. If you call out sick, somebody else replaces you. At you in your business, there is no room to call out sick at the start. As you now later on, when you build a team, you can afford not to be there because again, you have built a team that you can depend on and you can remove yourself. So there's different levels, but this is all at the start. You have to figure out these things. And I mean, it's madness, it's crazy, but the discipline, the sacrifices that have to be made for the mind. I mean, now from a mindset perspective, I always say, for me, one of the ways I probably started building my mind was reading, a lot of reading. Because I mean, before the internet became this massive distraction, most of us just read. I mean, I'd never listened
I
to,
mean,
I
we
mean,
had a book
podcasts became
exchange, Seth.
popular
So
recently, but I mean,
yeah,
exactly. We used
we
to
had
read
book
books and
exchanges.
I'd be like, you
Yeah.
give me a book. I'd be
Yeah.
like, yo, I bought this book. You can hold on to this
Yeah.
book. I mean, but I mean, if you can see, well, for people who are going to see this, watch this, there's books back here. But I mean, I like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I listened to this
It hit
realistic
different
podcast
now.
where yeah, I mean, people ask them and say, what's the single most tool that helped you change your mind?" And most people would say Rich Dad Poor Dad because I think they were reading it from a different perspective. I mean, when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I mean, it's not like I mean, this has been over 10 years ago. It didn't make the kind of sense that it needed to make for it to change my life. I'll be very honest with you. But now you read a book like that, knowing your intentions, knowing where you want to get to, then you're like, yo, it becomes a Bible. It's like a teaching moment. You're just learning things from it. Think and Grow Rich. It's a playbook now. It's not just a book. It's a playbook on what I need to do, how I need to do things. I mean, I have this like book here, the Celestine Prophecy, which I talked about in the teaching moment, the Four Agreements. It shifts your mind as to how you need to think. So reading it became a very important part for me in terms of my mindset and just how like it opens your mind to how other people think and what you need to do to put yourself in a position to get to that
Exactly.
next level.
Right, man. No, and you're totally right in that regard, Seth, because while first of all, like we were stating in the very beginning, you will be out of balance, and you have to develop the mindset of aiming to be in balance as much as possible. But Seth, from an entrepreneurial perspective and from a family man perspective, there's going to be fear. There's going to be opportunities coming your way from either end that you're going to aim to
Mhm.
rush at in order to find that balance. Okay. There's that fear of missing out. Like, for example, perfect. I didn't even have to say it. You know exactly where I was coming with that, because there's going to be
Yeah.
opportunities that friends, colleagues, other investors are taking. For me, Seth, it was a crypto bubble, man. I'm over here trying to
Yeah.
stabilize franchising, and crypto is the hottest thing in the news, and it's going in. There's that fear of missing out when all of my friends are putting in money and buying Shiba and Ethereum and Litecoin and things of that
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
And meanwhile, I feel like, oh man, I'm missing out on this. But Seth, here we go again. I'm all over the place. No, I
Yeah.
should be
Yeah.
focused on stabilizing this franchise model, but now I'm fear of me missing out on this crypto wave that's going to make me a multimillionaire in 1 week. That I lose focus, I hop over there, and now I'm probably not going to hit that
Bro, I
result that I
mean,
need from
not
the
to even
franchise
take it far,
perspective.
collectively as business partners, I wrote an article about this, about how I even made a video about how we fell into a Ponzi scheme. And I always think like we were in the middle of building RD, right? And collectively, me, you, and one of our other business partners lost over $150,000 into a real estate Ponzi scheme because of FOMO. We had no understanding of we knew, okay, we put money in, it makes us money because this guy is a real estate developer. That's as much as we understood initially. So it's like, I give you money, you give me money back. I don't care what you're doing with it. I'm not asking to understand more of what you do with my money. But over time, the well dries up and it's like, yo, where's my money? And eventually we found out it was a scheme. But then I think to myself, like, here we were also building a very young business. If we had taken all that money, because that's a lot of money, and put all that money into RD and perfected the craft and skill of building RD, what would it have been shortly after versus us saying, well, hey, there's a lot of influx of money coming. We can quickly double it. I mean, that fear of missing out of like, oh, quick money. I mean, a lot of young people suffer from that. Sometimes it's foolishness, naivety, whatever you want to call it. But I think that fear of missing out really cripples a lot of entrepreneurs in the start of things until you understand your true purpose or your true journey. Like, try to stay away from people coming at you with new ideas. Like, you got to stay away from that, because that really cripples how you think, because it affected us. It's funny. I'll tell a quick story about that same story. When we went to a lawyer, and that we were sitting in the office and we explained to him what had happened, and he said to
In,
us,
in
guys,
Culver
I think
City,
you
huh?
guys got suckered to a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, in Culver City. And I
Right,
remember
bro.
Obi like denying it, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
damn it, I've been
yeah, I
telling you
know.
guys, because
Yeah, I know. I know.
Bernie Madoff wasn't far removed. So it was, damn, did I really just get suckered, and did I really just fall into a Ponzi scheme? And I'm just like, well, I've been trying to use that word to explain what was going on, but maybe nobody wanted to accept it. But now a lawyer tells us this is exactly what has happened, and it's like, damn, you feel stupid, but
Well, in all actuality, Cecil, when you were ringing the alarm, it actually did have some effect to where we said, Cecil may be right. Let's cash
so
out.
we started
So yeah,
asking, yeah,
so
let's ask.
so everyone cashing out is what caused the collapse, because I wanted my
Yeah,
cash. Cecil wants cash. Everyone's got. Everybody wanted their cash out. But remember, the
yeah.
Ponzi system was taking money from Cecil, giving it to Raphael,
In
taking
giving
money
it
from
to
Raphael,
the
giving it
next
to the other.
person, yeah.
Right. So when we all decided to do
But
that,
if
that's when it
everybody
became
says I want to
prevalent.
take out at the same time, then it's like
Right.
the system crumbles. And
Right.
at the same time, but yeah, it goes down to the fundamental level, fear of missing out. So all these things from a mindset perspective, lack
Well,
of self-belief, being all over the place, fear of missing out, fear of commitment. These are the foundational things that I think, as an entrepreneur, as a family man, you have to figure out how you overcome these things in order for you to be able to get over the hump and get to the next level. And Ralph and I have talked about some of the ways we dealt with, I mean, it's funny because recently I woke up May 1st, whatever, and I had super mad anxiety, bro. Like I'd never heard before. I think part of it was because, I'll say this, I'm turning 40 later on this month. And I think it hit me then, like, damn, like, just these questions you always ask yourself in life. What am I doing? Where am I at? Because people see it from outside. They don't know what's going on in your life, and they just think everything is fine and dandy. You got it together, or whatever you tell them, whatever instructors we tell people on social media. But it all hit me, and I'm just like, I went into panic mode. So much negative energy and negative thoughts came into my mind. I came down to my office, I turned out all the lights, and I started meditating. Like, I turned on this app and I started meditating. And for about 15 minutes, I did that. And I was trying to train myself, and I said, I gotta do this meditation thing a lot more, because I mean, when you focus, it's another level of discipline and sacrifice. When you learn how to focus your mind on something, you're taking away all the negative energy. You're listening to the music, the sound, and it's telling you, channel it this way. And after that 15 minutes, I was so much more calm because I practiced my breathing. The room was dark. It was this whole Zen thing that I don't do, but I felt like right in that moment, I needed to do that, to just literally wipe everything out and not be in this, like, because I mean, it was a Monday. There was a lot of deadlines that I had to get to from a business standpoint. And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't have a whole week of anxiety, because I've had those
Yeah, for
where
sure.
you're
Yep.
just panicking because
I know.
everything's just not going right. Or just the world, like, life hits, bro.
Life
It
hits.
just
Yeah,
hits.
life hits, man. And Cecil,
Yeah.
man, you're totally right, man. Now, first of all, Cecil, that was a key form of self-care. Let's categorize that. That moment you take
Yeah.
for yourself.
Me
Cecil,
too.
sometimes it's me hopping in the car and taking an hour and a half drive to LA, to anywhere, to the middle of nowhere, just to play my right music with the right vibe, focus on myself. I have no distractions, and get my mind right, because that anxiety truly eats at you. And I think that's the choice we make when we say we want to become entrepreneurs. Okay, get ready
Yeah.
for the anxiety, get ready for the headaches, get ready for the uncertainty. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
what you did
Yeah.
there was self-care. That was a key gem right there. Turn it off. You
I
turn
mean,
off
I
the
had
lights
to,
was
because
significant.
I couldn't figure out anything else. And I'm just like, I don't meditate, but I don't
Yeah,
even sit still, because like you just go into panic mode for
right.
everything that's going on. And I was just like, you know what? I'd learned about the whole meditation thing, and I tried it before when I was going through a rough patch at one point in time in my life. So I was like, let me just do this again right
Yeah,
now.
crazy.
And
Yeah,
for
man.
15 minutes, sit still
Dope.
for 15
Yeah,
minutes. As soon as these ideas are coming into my mind, I'm
yeah,
literally
yeah.
batting them out and
Okay,
kicking them
got
out
you.
by just being
Yeah,
present. And it helped
crazy.
me get through the week, things like that.
Dope.
So, I mean, because at the end of the day, I think being in our positions, there are days where we don't get to control our
Right. Yeah.
days, our weeks. And I
Agreed.
mean,
Agreed.
wifey might come home stressed out from what she's dealing with at work, and it's on
And it
you,
takes you
and
right, exactly.
you got to balance that plus
Yep.
whatever else you have to do. Or my son might want to come home and play
Yep.
extensively, and he just doesn't want to leave me alone. I mean, it
Yep.
sounds bad, but it's true.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
need him to go do something else. I don't want to give him a phone, because I don't like, and all these kinds of things. And you're trying to balance all those things, and you're just like, hey, how do I keep all this stuff together in my mind and still be able to conquer and do what I need to do? Because yes, with entrepreneurship, there's flexibility for you to be able to do these things, but there's also self-discipline that you need to practice for you to be able to make sure you accomplish your goals at the end of the week, month, whatever the time frame is, to get to, I mean, where you need to get to. So I think it's kind of really important, how we treat the mind in this whole entire process, bro. Really.
Right. I mean, mindset is, again, it's the first, from our perspective, based on our experience, is the first, pillar of this entrepreneurial journey. Tackle the mindset.
Yeah.
Feed your mind. Pay attention to what
Yeah.
you're putting into it on a daily basis, and watch what your mind
Yeah.
puts out on a daily basis. All these things are key. Podcasts, reading books, things that sort of sense. These things sound so
Creating
cliche
systems, man.
nowadays. Yeah, creating systems. These things sound so cliche, but they're a true necessity, man.
I used to listen to music every time I drove, but
Yeah.
now I would say 70% of my driving, I'm listening to podcasts.
Oh
The
yeah,
other 30, I
definitely.
listen to
Same.
music, but then I
Same.
have like the law where on Fridays I just listen to music. And
Right.
I mean, I listen to upbeat music because Fridays
Yeah.
is like, okay, it's the end of the week.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to, I mean, for 4 days I've been listening to nonstop, like entrepreneurial stuff, feeding my mind with the good stuff. But today I just want to be in the state of mind where I'm going into the weekend happy, whatever the case might be. I want to be in a good mood, whatever. So I listen to music, and these are all systems. I think you need the systems, you need the calendar, you need organization. You need to put all these systems in place, and you need to be disciplined at following them for you to be able to project yourself to the next level.
Yeah, man. Cecil, first of all great points. And again, before we wrap this, I wanted to probe you a little bit about
Mhm.
FOMO, but from a family perspective. Yeah, we talked about FOMO from an entrepreneur perspective, and you have different opportunities flying your way, and you're willing to lose focus on the main task and run that way. But what about from a family perspective? How in the beginning of this journey, what do you condition your mindset to not have FOMO when it comes to family? Let me give you an example, man, or let me give
Mhm.
you some rationale behind this. Where it's Sunday right now, Seth, and you and I are recording. We're in work mode, and you scroll on IG and you see your friend at the park with their son. How do you remain in balance and not lose the work that we're doing now and feel like, oh no, I need to do the same as my friend is doing and take my son to the park as well too, because that's a part of me being in balance. But there's work needs to be done. Have you faced
I
that?
mean, I think
What are your
it's
thoughts?
discipline, because discipline. I mean, and I use that word, and it might sound loosely, but it is because I've
Yeah.
conditioned myself to understand that the journey and the results that I want are different from my friends. Like, you
Right.
can't keep up with the
Okay. Yeah.
Joneses. I
I
don't
agree.
want
Yeah.
to. I
Yeah.
mean, and yes, but you have to keep reminding yourself, because now your mind plays the trick that, hey, it's Sunday, your friends actually
Yeah.
chilling with their kids
Yeah.
and having fun,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
letting your kid sit there and do something else. He needs to be outside, but there's a time
Yeah.
and place. So for me, I mean, before we actually came to record this, I took him outside. We played. We drove in his car, did whatever he needed to do for a good hour because he wanted to go outside. We came in, we ate, and then I said, "Hey, I gotta do work for the next couple hours." I tell my wife, "Hey, for the next 2 hours, I'll be recording and doing this stuff." So, I mean, kind of need that space. It's a Sunday, but this is me even taking my Sunday and saying I have to do these things. I mean, back in the day, right, the playoffs are on. Let me go watch basketball. Let me go do this. But I'm like, there's a time and place for these things. And for me, from my family perspective, my wife and I have decided we have a 10-year financial independence goal. So therefore, we almost have to have tunnel vision and blockers to understand that if our friends are like right now going to the beach, or they're driving to Miami, or they're doing whatever, if my schedule doesn't permit me to do that right now, then I don't do it. There's a time and place for things, because these are sacrifices I have to make now for the greater good of what I need to accomplish later. Not to say I don't enjoy life. I mean, hey, birthday's coming up, got to figure it out, enjoy life. You're going to do whatever you want to do. Like, I mean, but you have to just make sure ultimately as an entrepreneur, you have, and I'm going to use the word balance, but I really, like I always tell you, I
I
don't
got
believe
you.
in it in the general sense of like equilibrium, fifty
Yeah. Yeah.
fifty. You have to
It'll
make
never be that.
balance when it's necessary and say, hey,
Right.
these are the things that I'm doing. These are the things that I need to do for my family. Because at the end of the day, whatever we do, good or bad, we get to live with the consequences of
Yep.
our actions. So you have to
Right.
think of it from that perspective, man. I mean,
Right.
I
Great
know, and
breakdown,
it's
man.
funny, I know I do it, but I know you, of all people, you taught me the idea of prevention is better than cure in anything you
Correct.
do. So, I
Yep.
mean, I know
Yep.
for you,
Yep.
with certain things about family, you always say, Cess, before it even happens, I got to
Yep.
prevent it from
Correct.
happening. I mean,
Yep.
you
For
can't
sure.
control
Yep.
everything, but I know you taught me
Of
that. So I
course.
always think when
Of
Ralph says
course.
prevention is better than cure. So before I make a dumb mistake that will
Yep.
affect my
Correct.
family, is this worth
Correct.
it? Nah, I'm good. I'm not going to do it.
Correct.
And that's just the
Correct.
way I approach things. So yeah,
Correct,
I
man.
mean,
Now,
I
great
mean
breakdown, man. Great breakdown.
but
This is
I
a
mean,
great
and
one in
staying
regards to that.
in that, so I would say, because I mean, I know, I mean, just based off of what we're business owners, we're
Yeah.
good friends, we are
Of
brothers.
course.
I know you have multiple things going. Like you have, I
Yep.
mean, you have a kid times three. So you have my
Right.
life, if you want to put it that way, times three. You have the franchise, the Subway business. We have RD. We're now putting our time into podcasts. I mean, it's not as intensive as maybe the others. Maybe we record, but we also have to get to a point where we promote this stuff to the outside world. I mean, how do you handle all of this from a mind? Like, how do you get your mind right?
Man, says to be honest, bro, it's really just me. I hit the light switch multiple times a day, and I hit them at key points in times. I don't want to make it seem like I'm a robot within this. I actually do have
Mhm.
life within me. I'm not just systematic. It may sound like a boring family. Oh, it's 3 o'clock, guys. Put the games
Hey,
away. It's now
boring is
time to get to
success.
work. Right, exactly. But I literally hit the switch off and on. And when I hit the switch off on business time, I hit it off on business time. And I hit the switch on personal family time, I hit it on fully. I think that's my key. First of all, I have to fit it all within a day. Within my
Yeah,
day sets, let's say my day starts at 6 a.m. and it ends at 8 p.m. That's a good 14 hours. I'm going to find my best way to fit in. Again, it's not balance. My entrepreneurial perspective may take 8 of those 14 hours. My personal relationship may take 3 out of that 14, and then my kids may take 3 out of that 14. Yes, it should be the 8, but this is what I'm working on. My goal is to work on changing the 8 to the 3 and the 3 to the 8, where I'm spending more time with the
makes
family
sense.
and less time on the business. So I divvy up the time that way, Seth. And when that 6 hours is up on the business, I hit that switch off and I hit the switch on my wife. When that time is done, sorry, babe, hey, go ahead
Mm,
and do your thing for the evening. Switch off, switch on for the kids. It's time for Taekwondo. It's time for this. It's time for that. It's homework time. When it's time for personal Ralph time, that's the greatest switch that I hit, Seth, because that next day it's going to be critical that Ralph had his time in order to put in the time into business, personal,
makes
and
sense.
children. So that's how I really go about it, man. That fear of missing out, you hit very great points on that, man. Relate, sometimes I feel the guilt, man, where on a Sunday morning, I'm out, grinding out in LA doing whatever it is. And I know that my kids probably want to have breakfast with me. It's a sick feeling sometimes, but it's a feeling
Hey,
that I've learned to stomach.
I see you in
Okay.
Hawaii the whole last week, and I'm
Yeah,
sitting there
man.
thinking like, damn, I need to be at a
Yep.
beach, but I'm like,
Yep.
okay, I got things to do. Like
Yep. You got to
this is
knock it
his.
out.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, you got to do what you got to do at
Exactly.
the end of the day. So
Exactly.
you're right. I
Right,
mean,
man.
there's always that balance that we have
Yeah, man.
to have within the family,
Yeah.
the balance that we have to have within the business. I mean, or figure out what works. Because
Agree.
I think at the end of the day, you have to constantly have a growth mindset, and that has to drive you to a goal. And once you have that, then you set your goals, you create and
Right.
structure your life. I mean, we use calendars. Like I said, 3 years ago, I wasn't using calendars, but now my life is on the calendar to the point where, I mean, I have to look at my calendar to see what I have in the future. And if it's not there, it's not happening. So therefore, if there's anything that needs to go on there, this is what reminds me. This is structure for me. And these are the things that we put in place to help us be more efficient. And efficiency leads to, it gets you closer to your goal. It just does. I mean, and putting your, bro, I mean, if it's not on it, it's not, it doesn't happen. So ultimately, I have to put myself in a space where it's like, okay, this is RD's block. This is real estate block. This is, I mean, if there's nothing there, it's like, okay, I have the time to go chill out with Ken. I mean, even like there's a reminder for me to pick up my son from daycare every single day. 'Cause, I mean, now I'm conditioned that I might not forget it, but there might be a day I'm into it that if it didn't pop up on my phone to remind me, who knows? I could be like, oh snap. Like, I mean, it's happened. It's actually happened before when you don't have your phone around you and then you're doing something and then you're like, oh my God. And I'm calling them now, like, oh, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm running, I'm picking up Ken's because they're worried, like, hey, why is Ken like dad not here, or whatever the case might be. So I mean, you have to have that. And then obviously, I think from a mindset perspective, we all need to put ourselves, we all have to have a support system because we've talked about all these things. We have to have a support system, people who understand the journey that we want to go through, whether it's through family or entrepreneurship. And the more you have people who understand your journey, I think the easier the path or the journey becomes. Because if everybody's always questioning you, then you're questioning yourself all the time. And that questioning of the mind is really limiting. It does not help you get to where you want to get to. You just have to be resilient you have to be, you have, you have a goal. It doesn't matter what anybody's saying. It doesn't matter what all people, your friends, it doesn't matter. You have to be resilient to say, yo, got to get here. And then as you can afford it, you got to build a strong team. I mean, Ralph and I, we have people behind the scenes that help us do things that otherwise we cannot do now because at the end of the day, we don't have that luxury or time anymore. So you have to have people behind the scenes doing, even if like they always say, you can't have $1 million dreams with $10 tasks. There's a time and place for it. And in the start, you are everything and you have to do it. But as soon as you can get rid of those, you should. And it comes obviously with responsibility and revenue and all these things from the entrepreneurial perspective. On the family side, yes, I mean, you do what you got to do. You make sure you find time to not burn out in self-care. I mean, you have to build to get to where you need to get to, but it all starts in the mind. If you cannot discipline the mind, you cannot like get it to where you need to get it to, you're not getting there. And you're going to keep wondering, why am I not successful? Why am I seeing all these people? Because even the people who we see making content for fun and we're like envious of their lives, they're so disciplined and structured in creating that content for you to enjoy that you might be like, oh my God, but while this dude might be spitting out 6 pieces of content a day, he's maybe back there working. You're just seeing this content like, oh my God, I need to be like this guy. But it's because he put in the work. He structured his time. He structured his mind, and he's getting it. So, I mean, I think people out there, for all my dadpreneurs, mompreneurs, entrepreneurs who are starting, the mind is an important thing. The mindset, the growth mindset is prime. And do what you got to do. Read your books, listen to your podcasts, build a team, have people around you that are going to support you. Have like, you need a confidant. Like, if I know I'm stressed out, I don't probably want to talk to my wife about it. I talk to Ralph. I mean, these kinds of things. Or you have to have a wife that can listen to you. Like, you have to be able to talk to your wife about your problems, about things that are bothering you, because she can give you insight, or just anything. Like, you need a support system that's going to be there for you to be able to get to the next level, man. So any last words for the audience, man, Ralph?
Well, I just know that I know that we've referred to a lot of the situations in this convo as, males dealing with their wives. But ladies, if you're listening, well, fellas listening in on this, and you are dating a mompreneur, and you're dating that woman that is going through that journey, this entrepreneurial journey that we're breaking down as well too. All the game that we gave, and we're saying from our wife's perspective, you must play that from a husband perspective as well too. And during, as we grow this podcast and on future episodes coming up, we will bring on women to break down that perspective as well too. And also, we'll make sure that, this remains relatable for everyone listening now. Everything that we're speaking of is through experience.
It's what we go through, and hopefully what solutions out there. I mean, because I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a whatever PhD at any of these things, but we learn through experiences, and we learn what works. And we say, hey, this worked for me. It doesn't mean it will work for you, but if you can take elements from this, and I mean, Ralph and I, we kind of just exchange notes and things like that. So definitely we've enjoyed just putting this out there. I mean, this is vulnerability, I like to say, because otherwise I'm not telling people some of these inner secrets of my life, or whatever the case might be. So don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid of putting your story out there and letting people know, because you can learn from people. People will call me and tell me like, hey, I heard you talk about this. This is a way you can solve it, because this is what I'm doing. So let's put it out there. Let's tell our stories. Let's learn from each other, and let's grow. Definitely. So thank you guys very, very much for listening. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. The Family Man Building a Brand podcast. Check us out on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, thank you guys very much.